All guys, war has officially begun, that's for sure. This is the part where I'd usually cut to an intro, but of course UnREAL doesn't have an intro, so I guess, hey guys, it's Kevin again for UnREAL Season 2, Episode 4, Treason. I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Even though, like I said, last week's episode was a bit uneven, a bit messy, I knew this episode would be great, and this was a great episode. I absolutely love this episode. I thought this was a fantastic episode. It was really explosive, really dramatic stuff going on here. Some really big reveals as well, and we're only on Episode 4. I can't believe we're only on Episode 4. We're almost at a halfway point in the season, and things are definitely going to get crazy. I think this episode was right up there with episode 2. Now, was it the best episode of UnREAL we've had? No, but I think it was just right up there. It was as good as episode 2 and episode 1. But let's just get in this episode because I absolutely love this episode. The season continues to just be fantastic, and let's just get into it. So, as we know, Quinn promised Rachel that after she dealt with this whole Chet situation, she would hand Rachel's job back to her. That's exactly what it seems she's done, because right in the beginning, we see Rachel's back to being the boss, and basically she has that they've seen her messenger and to let her know the second it arrives, and I'm like, why do you need a messenger? What do you want delivered to you? I was thinking maybe her pills or something like that, but she says she needed it, like, yesterday, and Jay shows Rachel a costume and asks if she's seen it, and Chet ordered it while he was still in charge, and Rachel asks what they are, and Jay says it was supposed to be the girl's uniform for Powder Puff football day, but it looks like a porn shoot, and there's going to be a report from Entertainment Weekly coming to see the show today. She says it's fine, she doesn't really have much of a problem with it, and he asks if it's really just him offended, and she says not today, and he asks who she is, and what would Hillary Clinton say, and I get what he's trying to say, that really Rachel doesn't seem to really care much about these girls. I talked about before, you know, her opinion of this girl's doesn't really matter. You know, she doesn't really care what she thinks about them. She doesn't really care about them really at all. I mean, what really matters to her is good TV, and that's what matters to her. So, you know, it makes sense why Rachel doesn't really seem to care. So Coleman gets out of the everlasting car. Rachel's surprised that he's still driving it, and he asks if she wants to take it for a spin. He's still waiting to open it up and see how fast it goes. She asks if he actually wants to watch Quinn turn into Naomi Campbell, and because she will seriously want to actually beat the shit out of her, and he says to not worry about her, she's outgrown her, and she agrees that really, you know, Quinn has no bearing on her at this point, and tells him that Entertainment Weekly is there. He says he needs to go and pull some clips from them. She tells Dan to let her know when the messenger arrives, and Madison then goes to Quinn, who has brought her cereal, and she says she didn't ask for it, and she says that she thought she wanted, and says that she wasn't answering her phone, so they started calling the production office about her dad, and it turns out that he's dead. Her dad is dead, and this is a really good chance for us to see really how much suffering Quinn's been in, and that's something I think they did really well here, is that you'd expect Quinn to play the villainous role here, and in many ways she is, but also she's kind of the hero in this situation, because you really see she's hurting a lot, and she really is suffering. That's something that UnREAL does really well, is turn the villain into the hero, and that's what they really did here, and Quinn looks really distraught. She immediately tells her to get out. She really wants nothing to do with this. You know, she kind of just, you know, wants to be by herself, and that's definitely a way to handle death. You know, when someone dies, especially, that's a way to handle death, and that's something that I really enjoyed here. And Quinn especially, this is probably one of Quinn's best episodes, because we really get to see all sides of Quinn. We see that manipulative side, we see that scheming side, we see that kind of tender side she gets, we see the heart she has, we see the emotion she goes through. I mean, really, every side of Quinn we've seen in the show so far is in this episode, and again, it's Constance Zimmer just continues to evolve in this performance and really just does a fantastic job, as does Sherry Appleby. But then we get to this next scene, which really is what sets up, like I said, the war going on. So, Rachel sees Chet with his son. Obviously, we know Chet had his son, and he's trying to cover up that he kidnapped his son, and he asks why he's here. Chet says it brings your baby to work day, and Rachel asks if he killed Cynthia or something, and he says he didn't kill his ex-wife, she's at a retreat, and he gave the nanny the day off, and it was time for skin-to-skin bonding time. We know that's not at all what happened. He actually kidnapped his son, and Rachel reminds him of the custody battle he lost, and he says that means nothing to him. It's his DNA and love, and he'd love to see a judge take it away from him. Now, as sweet as that is, Chet, you're still doing something illegal. You stole a baby. It's illegal to do that, and he's crazy. He really is crazy. I mean, I've known Chet's crazy, but come on, Chet, really, just, it's common sense here. Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. And Rachel reminds him of the custody battle he lost. He says, I just read this. So, he says it's not happening if he has to pull his teeth and melt his bones. Rachel says keep the baby away from the girls because it's like Lady Catnip, and in many ways, yeah, it's kind of a distraction. And, you know, the girls are supposed to be focused on Darius, they're focused on the baby, it's just not going to work. So, Rachel then goes outside, she sees Madison crying, and asks what she's doing, and Madison says that Quinn's always going to remember her as the girl that went down her fiance and told her that her dad was is dead, and Rachel's shocked that Quinn's dad's actually dead. And Rachel, this really does show that while Rachel is not really the best person, she still has a heart. She still has a heart. She still cares about people, and she even goes over to Quinn, even though they're fighting right now. She tells Quinn she wanted to come by and say she's sorry her dad died, and Quinn asks if that's she's sorry about and not Gary. And you can tell that Quinn's really trying to make, take all of her anger and all of just her, emotion on Rachel. That's what she's really doing. She's using Gary as her way to really get out that emotion towards Rachel. And, basically, Rachel says now's not the time. Quinn says it's the perfect time, actually. The perfect time would have been before she went to the network, but will now have to do. And Rachel says she had a conversation with Gary, and it's just she gave her the showrunner job, and, he gave her the showrunner job and essentially took it away. Because really, she did. I mean, she said, look, you can be showrunner, and then the next second, she's not showrunner. And Quinn says she stabbed him in the back. Rachel says she wants to talk to Gary, someone who could be objective and reasonable and cool-headed, and Quinn still sees it as stabbing her in the back, because really, that's what she did. I mean, she went behind her back, and she took away her position, and Rachel says, well, not really took away, but she did subdue her, and Rachel says she was just trying to do what's best for the show. Quinn says that's bullshit, it was a power grab, and she should at least own it, and Rachel says it wasn't that she was freaked out because the show was going down, and Quinn says her freak out is the reason why Coleman is driving around a sports car with the name of her show on it. They would have never sent him in if she hadn't said anything, and now they're stuck with him. Now, to be fair, I don't think Rachel really cares. I think she's bonding with Coleman, and she really enjoys his presence, but she tells her to go away. She has a new boss. She needs to stop acting like she cares about her, and Rachel says that she does care, because I think she genuinely does care about Quinn, and Rachel, and, basically Quinn says she has a funny way of showing it, and so she plucked her from nothing, made her a producer, but now she thinks that she can just do it all on her own, but she can't, and the truth is, she needs her behind her, guiding her, pushing her, leading her behind her so she won't crack. And really, we can tell that Rachel is slowly cracking. I mean, definitely this season. I've heard many people say that this show really is about Rachel's struggle with addiction and depression. How the first season, she was trying to basically, keep it so she was somewhat happy. This season, she's completely avoiding it. She's avoiding her depression. She's not making it seem like it's a big deal. And the way that Quinn is basically just making, taunting her with everything that Rachel doesn't want to hear, I thought was so well done. Because really, Quinn's always been this sort of, figure that makes Rachel feel very, nervous. And really just makes her feel very uncomfortable, and I thought that was really well done. And basically Rachel has told her delivery is there, tells Quinn to watch. She says she can't make the show without her, but Rachel says to watch her do it, and basically she's gonna try to do the show without Quinn. That perfectly sets up what happens in the rest of this episode. But then we get this awesome twist that I absolutely loved. As we know, last week, Darius confronted Rachel, told her come in, and told her a secret, and we finally find out what that secret was in this episode. And actually, this episode focuses a lot more on Darius than it did on the girls, which I actually really do appreciate, because the suitor should be just as important. And like Rachel said last week, the show is not about the girls, it's about the suitor. And Rachel's with the messenger who goes to Darius. She turns the camera around, and he tells him he doesn't have much time. And it turns out the messenger is actually a doctor. And Romeo comes in, asks what Rachel is doing there. Darius says that she knows, and it's cool. Romeo says it's not one word about his injury, goes out to the press, and his career is over. And as I predicted, he is in fact very seriously injured. He seems to have a very bad back injury, and basically, he asks Darius what he was thinking. He says without her, the doctor wouldn't have gotten in, and on Everlasting, we see Graham starts the episode with talking about how the game of Powder Puff is going to go. They're going to be divided into two teams, pink versus blue. Darius is a quarterback on both teams, but the winning team wins the winning date, and the girls think it's absolutely ridiculous in that they feel like porn stars, because really, when you look at what they're wearing, yes, it makes them look very sexy, I'll definitely say it, but they are as sexed up as you can imagine. It's totally something that Chet would do. I mean, these are costumes that, like, Powder Puff, porn, that's really what it feels like. I mean, if there was, like, a Power Puff game and there was, like, a porn star playing it, that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like this is, some, supposed to be romantic reality show. It feels like this is a sexed up version of that. And believe it or not, guys, that happens a lot. I mean, there are many shows where people say, oh, that show's been too sexed up, and this really isn't, again, this is something that, as unrealistic as it sounds, I think it honestly could happen. And Darius is, basically, they think it's ridiculous, and Beth Ann seems to be the only one who seems to enjoy it, and I kind of like how, very much like last year, Beth Ann is starting to develop a bit of selfishness, and she's starting to be a bit catty, and I honestly really like that cattiness in her, because before, she seemed like a really nice girl, but now that Rachel and Madison have gotten into her ear and made her seem like she's this star, she now is very selfish. selfish, and she's very confident, and she's kind of overconfident with things, and I really do like that. I like that she's very self-confident. I like that she now basically isn't afraid to be sexed up, and I really do enjoy it. It's one of the best parts of UnREAL, is watching these characters turn these girls into what their editing versions of, what their edit is, that's what they want them to be. Madison clearly wants Beth Ann to be this sexed up girl, who basically is so confident and very selfish and just a bitch, and that's exactly what Beth Ann is turning to. Very much like Grace. Grace was a bitch. She really was. She wasn't a bitch at first until Rachel got into her ear and planted that information, and that's how the whole Grace and Anna conflict started. So I really did enjoy that. Jay then asks Rachel where Darius is. There's a field filled with horny straight girls there, and Graham is the only dick in sight. It's not a good situation. No one's having fun. Asks where Darius is. Rachel says he'll be there as soon as he can. The doctor says his injury is bad and gotten worse. Rachel asks if he can give him something for the pain. The doctor says he needs to tell him when he's done damage to himself, and the doctor says that it's time. He needs surgery, and Darius says the surgery has an 8-month recovery time, and there's no guarantee it might actually work, and his career may be over as they know it. Romeo says if he doesn't get the surgery, then it definitely is, and he can't play like this. They can't hide anymore. And Rachel then realizes that not only is he having the surgery, he's had it since he arrived, basically, and that's the reason why they really did this show, for him to basically think of what he's gonna do after his career, if he really does get hurt. And this is the real reason why they're hiding. It has nothing to do with the bitch please scandal. Darius says he could have played his way out of that nonsense if he wasn't injured, but as it is, he still needs to clean up his image and log down the sportscasting deal. Rachel says that this is why he needs to stay there, and the doctor says one wrong hit or even one wrong tango step and he could be paralyzed, and Darius says that's not going to happen. He's not even playing. Rachel tells him to take it easy. The doctor says it was his fault if he duct tape himself to a gurney and haul him to an ambulance right now, and Romeo says the show has enough footage to make him look good. They can spin it saying he tweaked his back, saving a girl from drowning, and he had to leave to do some physical therapy. Really? And yeah, that is what he did. We remember he saved Beth, Yael from that, so Rachel says he has no idea what he's talking about. They don't even have close to enough footage. He's kissed 2 girls, gone a couple dates, and Romeo says the show is not safe for him. He's leaving, and the show is not worth it. Rachel asks if he knows there's a reporter on set, and if the reporter thinks there's a problem, then they're all screwed pretty much. And Romeo says he's got the day, but they're out of there by tonight, and that's what they plan on doing. They're gonna get out of there, and I thought it was a very well done scene, knowing what Darius is going through, and knowing what they've covered up. Again, it sounds kind of true. I mean, I've heard many scenarios where there are tons of things that shows just covered up, and they didn't know that celebrities are going through. Celebrities are never who you think they are, and I think the way they're portraying Darius is the perfect portrayal of that. Darius seems like Mr. Perfect. He seems like there's nothing wrong with him. What we forget is that he does get hurt. Celebrities can get hurt. They are human, and bad things can happen to them. This is a perfect example of that. Darius did in fact get hurt. Darius is seriously hurt. This is a very serious situation. It's not something they can just play around, but they have to try to be as low-key as possible, and that's something that I really enjoyed about this episode, is seeing them hide that scandal from everyone else. So now that Rachel knows what Darius is going through, there has to be certain ways for her to cover this up and be as low-key as possible. One of the ways she does that is trying to negotiate with Jay to change up the show to get Darius off the field, and instead have him doing a play-by-play with Tiffany. And Jay says that there's absolutely no point in casting a pro football player if they're not actually going to watch him play football. Because remember, he's supposed to be like Peyton Manning or someone big like that. Someone that everyone knows, a huge football player that everyone loves, and he hasn't played a single game. He hasn't thrown a single ball. He hasn't done anything, and Rachel says Tiffany is their wifey, and this is going to give her an opportunity to shine. He needs to see that, and in retrospect, I think it's a good idea, because yeah, they're trying to keep the show romantic, and he says that's so sweet of her. He says he's not an idiot. Asks him what's going on. She says to just do it, and he agrees. Coleman then walks to the set, she's the footage, and Yael goes up to him, and let me just say, I don't know what happened in this episode, but I have developed the biggest crush on Yael after this episode. I mean, she's really hot. I definitely will say that. She's a very hot girl, but she's also a very sweet girl. She's a very seductive girl, and especially in what she was wearing in this episode, she looked really damn hot. I'm just gonna say that right now. She really did. And she goes to him, she sits down, asks if he's the showrunner. He says he is. She says it must be a huge job getting a show like this. Rachel tells her she's in her seat, and you can really tell that Rachel is not a fan of Yael at all because of the way she flirts with everyone and says they'll talk later. And again, that's something you're seeing with Yael. She's turning into a huge flirt because of the way they edited her. And Rachel then sits down. Coleman says the reporter's on the way up and asks what's wrong with Darius. Rachel says it's nothing and to not worry about it, and he can tell it's something something else. He says she tells him the truth, and then they work together as a team, and you're really starting to see that what used to be Rachel and Quinn is slowly turning into Rachel and Coleman, and I really do like that. So Rachel gets up, asks if he's ready, and he asks for what. Tiffany says this is bullshit. Ruby agrees. Yael says at least they keep giving them drinks and says it could be fun. Tiffany asks if it is, and Ruby says that she was going to be a doctor. They all laugh, and you can tell that Ruby's really starting to gel with the rest of the cast, and I really do like that. So Madison goes to London, who is one of the girls that, just like Brandy last week, we didn't really know a lot about, and we find a lot about her here. Not as much as with Brandy, but I think they did a good job of subtly giving, getting us to find out stuff about London. She goes to London, tells her she needs to loosen up a little, because London is not all into this. She's just stretching. She's really not into this, and tells her to take a drink. She continues stretching, and Madison says she can do what she wants, but Darius is going to cut her if she doesn't bring it today, and that obviously gets London to take a drink. Madison happily nods, and again, I love the way that Madison is manipulating everyone. This side of Madison that we didn't see last year is something that I'm really enjoying. Seeing this more dark, not darker side, just a more aware side of Madison that I really do enjoy. So Rachel then takes Coleman to Darius's room, says Romeo wants to get him out of there ASAP. He asks what Darius wants, and she says he's kind of on the fence, tells him what the doctor said, and asks if they can call anyone to discreetly bring in for a second opinion. And Coleman says he is someone who does sports medicine, he's got a big career, and says he'll call him right now, and she thanks him because she obviously doesn't want him to have to lose Darius. Even though Darius is hurt, she doesn't want to just end the show. She obviously wants to end the season. She wants good ratings and things like that. So I really like the way that was done. Really good stuff there. But then another wrench is thrown into their plan in this next scene. So it appeared that Quinn was really going to step back in this episode, when really she has something else up her sleeve, and I really love the way this was done. Because Chet goes to Quinns, she says to leave her alone, he tells her he heard about her father, and he asks if she wants to hold his son. He says the result of him cheating on her with his wife, and the baby came out of her vagina, and refuses, obviously, because, someone else's, this was his wife's baby and not hers, and he says that they really put things into perspective, and she agrees. You raise kids, teach them everything you know, then they grow up to stab you in the back. So she put a pillow over its face right now, still young enough to claim and someone's at the door for Quinn. Chat says to tell him about Randy, and she says that he was a worthless father, now he's dead, and you can really tell she doesn't want to talk about it, but I feel like there's a lot more going on with Randy that Quinn just doesn't really want to admit, and that if he's asked, her if she's okay, she says she's developing, asks if he can tell from all of her colorful post-it notes, and he's asked if she's giving up, says when he wanted to show the back, and she fought him tooth and nail, but, when he wanted to show back, she showed him tooth and nail, but now it's that little weirdo and dick for brain, she's just gonna hand it over to them. He said it's their baby, and Jay comes in, tells her Rachel and Coleman are acting real shady, and they've got Darius standing on the sidelines wearing a suit, and he can tell that something is going on. He doesn't know how he can turn into a TV show. Quinn says she doesn't know, but she'll figure it out, and thanks him. He walks out and asks Chet what's going on with Darius, and her and Chet then look at the footage, and basically there's no hiding this from her. She basically figures out everything. She figures out that he's injured, and she comes up with this really devious plan that's just a really great plan overall. Chet says it affects his career. Quinn says they need to show that he's hurt, that's their story. They medevac him in a helicopter, girls crying, sirens blaring, cat fighting over who gets to ride with him to the hospital. Just a general making spiral rating television making gold. And he says if the show tanks, it did happen on Coleman's watch, and she says that's the point. Coleman's out. They'll come back to her, the genius that has made the show for the last 14 seasons, and then they just pick a new suitor, and then they're back on the air. Chet asks what they do to make this happen. She says they get Darius on the field, take him down, and basically that's their plan, is that they're going to make sure that they show Darius's injury, which is honestly a crazy plan, but totally something Quinn would do, and I absolutely love that. When Quinn is in full scheming mode to just do things for ratings, that is when Quinn is at her best, and again, Hans Zimmer just killed in this scene, but you can also see how desperate she is and how she really does just want control over this show, because she doesn't have a control. This show was her baby, and she's losing control of her baby, and there's really nothing she can do about it. Just like how Rachel was kind of her child. How Rachel was kind of, Quinn was kind of a surrogate mother towards her. Well, now, Rachel, she's now left, and she's doing this on her own, and, she doesn't want Rachel to grow up too fast, and I feel that's a big part of it as well. So, on Everlasting, Graham explains what Darius is going to be doing. Tiffany says the other girls are going to hate her, and Rachel says the other girls already hate her because she's blonde and rich, and who cares about them? This is about her. And Darius sitting side by side, and he'll see she is a total package and he'll love her. She starts humming the wedding theme, and Coleman then comes up to her, asks if he heard from his friend, and he says she's still in surgery, and she says to let her know when he hears from him. She's got to deal with Romeo, and Coleman sees reporter Dominic, shakes his hand, thanks him for coming, and Chet goes to distract the other girls with the baby, which was a very smart plan. Coleman gets a call from the doctor. Rachel goes to the girls, tells him to get ready for the show, and Chet says that that's the girl he's telling his son about, but that's a lesson for another time called the lesbian. Oh my god. Chet is just so raw, and he says so many of the wrong things, but just like Quinn, I could just have a whole episode of just them saying, you know, very offensive and terrible things, and I'd love that. That's one of the best parts of the show, is that they take those things that normally be very offensive and try a way to make them funny, because really, yeah, it is kind of, you know, insulting what he said, but still, it's also very funny. So Darius and Tiffany then start the commentating, and Darius tells Jeremy to cut it. He says to not worry about it, they can in editing. Tiffany says it's fine, it's her first time, and it's his first time, and he'll figure it out. And I like their bonding here. I really am liking the way that Darius and Tiffany are bonding. He says he hadn't done anything for the first time in 16 years. He's better than the best, and she says she gets that pressure. Her dad called her the golden child for the first 2 decades in her life. She tried to be 18 karat, and he says so did he. He's still doing it. She says she's not been working. She's been working really hard and laying herself off the hook, and you should try it. And Chet tells all the teams to huddle up, tells them they're going to bring Darius into this thing, and the object is to not win, and basically he's going to make sure that they show Darius' injury. So he says he wants them to bring him down. They can kiss him and grab him. He doesn't care what they do as long as they bring Darius down to the dirt. Beth Ann asks why. Darius says because that's the show. It's the football player with the sexy, beautiful girls. Bring him down to the dirt, and plus whoever brings him down first gets one. I mean, Chet says, you know, whoever brings him down first gets one-on-one date. So they all agree. He goes to London, tells her he understands Darius doesn't pay much attention to her. She says she needs to bring it. He says to come with him, and you know that Chet has something up his sleeve to deal with this. And Romeo's on the phone, tells Rachel he asked her 2 tickets to LAX, and they told him she said no. She says she just needs, you know, a little more time with Darius, and she needs 6 episodes, only 3 more after today. She can get it down to the final 2 and get everything done she would have done in a final season, and so she'll make his exit ratings gold with a pot full of contracts at the end of the rainbow, which he knows makes him happy and is going to make him look so good. So basically, she's going to try to finish this season in 6 episodes, which is very interesting, and it does make sense because, you know, we're only on episode 3 right now in the show, and this is episode 4, so it kind of makes sense why we're going that way. She says they made all, and it also shows that I think that not every episode of the season is going to be exploring Everlasting, because the way it seems like, I think that's what Rachel's going to do. She's going to try to do 6 episodes, and especially the way this episode ends, I think she's still going to be doing that. So she says they made all this happen, they can fix it, rubs his leg, says she missed him, he pushes her away. The way she's trying to seduce him into it again is very Quinn-like, and asks her what she's doing. She storms out. Obviously, you know, Romeo's one of the only rational people on the show, definitely. So Quinn then sees Tiffany and Darius bonding. London goes up to him, asks him why he's all the way over there when they're on the field, says she was promised a date with him, and says she intends to collect, and asks if he's scared of playing with a few girls. Says he's definitely not. She says let's play. He agrees. He goes into the girls, says he can't play football in a suit. London tackles him as well as many other girls. London says she won, unaware of how critical his condition is, and such a well done scene. Just seeing Darius wincing in pain, and them just, you know, joking around, think that's just a fun thing, not realizing how crazy his condition is. I love the way that was done, and then you see Quinn smiling in victory, knowing she's won. Such a good scene. I love that. I love that things did not go Rachel's way. I like that, you know, for once, things didn't go her way. She didn't get what she wanted. Quinn actually got what she wanted, but in many ways, she's not wrong. I mean, really, they should show his injury. They shouldn't be lying about it anymore, and I think Quinn really isn't wrong when she says they should be showing his injury, and that maybe what he's doing, you know, what they're doing by hiding his injury isn't the right way to go. Maybe the way to do it is to show his injury, but, you know, Rachel thinks it's absurd and everything. I really enjoy that, and honestly, while Quinn is a scheming bitch, you kind of are on her side in this episode, and you kind of could see where she's coming from, such as this scene. I really enjoyed that. So Coleman then goes to Rachel, who says he talked to his friend. They do have an option, but it's incredibly risky. Quinn asks Jay where her ambulance is. He says they said they're on the way, but they've cried wolf so many times she knows they wouldn't believe them, and tells them to call again. Coleman and Rachel then go to Quinn. She tells him that this is fantastic. He gets taken away to the hospital. The girls weeping bedside vigils. They throw in some sexy nurses, so it's like Everlasting MD. And Rachel says it's a serious situation. They can't do that. His whole life he's hurt, and she's going to wreck his career. And Coleman says it's all going to go blow back on her. She clearly didn't vet him properly, and she says he's a professional football player, and if his team couldn't catch that, they could have. And Coleman says illegally they can, and Quinn says the network promised that they would support his vision and put him in on deal and told him he could do whatever he wanted, and he jumped in it. They asked for one favor, that Everlasting's a cash cow, but right now it's a bit of a train wreck, and asked if he could go in. Let me just say, Constance Zimmer just killed it in this scene. Every scene she was great, but this scene was so good. Fix up a low. She tells him in a few minutes their star is going to get into an ambulance, get taken away, their season is screwed, so basically their season's going to be screwed, so they can blame her or Chet, but the network doesn't care. All they know is they put him in charge, and all this happened on his watch because he's the showrunner. Wish him good luck on taking himself out of this one. And again, I mean, I love how Quinn is just scheming against them. I really do like that. So Coleman tells Rachel his friend is here. They go. She tells Darius that Quinn wants to use the footage of him getting hurt. He immediately says no, obviously. You know, he doesn't want that footage used, and says it will kill his career, his sportscasting gig, all of it. Rachel says the media will be all over it. He'll be a guy that hates women, lies about his injuries. He says she's got to make this go away. Says she's trying to, but she's going to need him on board 100%. And says she needs a doctor who will give an epidural. And basically that's the plan. They're going to give him an epidural, which obviously numbs the pain. He says his doctor says he needs the pain, otherwise he could end up in a wheelchair. And she says she's not going to put him in any situation where he could get hurt. And you really do see that Darius really cares about many people, like Romeo and his mother and his niece and everything. And she says, basically, if he's finished the season, he's a bona fide star, and he just needs to ask himself what he wants, and he says, you know, he needs to focus on himself, but he feels responsible for them. Rachel tells him to get the epidural. He walks out the door, puts on a smile, the ambulance is gone, he's not in it, and his mom is safe, and niece is safe, and tells him the doctor's right outside. They can fix this right now, and honestly, I really am enjoying this relation between Rachel and Darius. I like the way their bonding is, because Darius, you know, he's not as easy to persuade like Adam. He's not as dumb as Adam. He's a lot smarter than Adam. He can tell, you know, really when everything is coming from a mile away, and that's something I'm really enjoying about Darius. I think he's doing that really well, and he agrees. The ambulance arrives. Quinn then tells all the girls about her plan for what's happening, and tells them it's all their fault. She needs them all to cry as if it's Taylor Swift, asks them to be a part of their girl squad, and then change their mind. Beth Ann starts crying. The doctor gives him the epidural. He winces in pain. Darius comes out. Quinn thinks that, you know, he's coming out in the ambulance, and whoever cries the hardest gets ride to the AR. Cameras roll. The gurney comes out. Quinn is shocked to see he's not in it. He comes out good as new, asks them why they're all sad. The girls are confused, tells them it was just another deadly offense, and if he was hurt, he couldn't throw the football. He then says he's supposed to be going on a one-on-one with London, who then throws up on his shoes. Quinn says the plan is that they'll use the ambulance, take her to the hospital, and that's how they'll use the ambulance, because obviously they need to use the ambulance, and Darius is freaking out that she threw up on his shoes. But then we get this really great conversation between him and Romeo that I absolutely love. Like actors here that truly does care about Darius. You know, he's not just someone that's just doing it for ratings or just doing it because he wants Darius to have good ratings. He actually does care about his friend, and you really do see that here. And Romeo point blank asks him what the hell he's doing, because, you know, Darius tells him to calm down, because obviously, you know, he's not in good condition at all. And Romeo says he saw him throw the ball, he didn't even wince. He tells him about the shot, he can finish the show, and he'll be fine. Romeo says he doesn't know that she still won't, and Rachel won't still be up his ass when he's paralyzed, and will spend the next 4 years of his life in some rehab joint. Rachel says they're ready for him, they're moving a little slow. Romeo tells him to get out of there. Darius tells him to ease up. Romeo says if he stays on the show, kills himself, he's not going to be a part of it. And Darius says if he feels that way, he can go. He literally fires him right then and there. And honestly, I get what Darius is doing. He wants to make his own choices. He doesn't want people to have to make choices for him, and he doesn't want Romeo to be like his brother. You know, he's his cousin, and he's not acting like, you know, he's letting him make a choice. Romeo's shocked. Rachel says she'll talk to him. Romeo says he gave his life for Darius, and that's his blood. She has no idea what that's like. Tells her she just poisoned the best thing either one of them had, and all for a television show, and now she has to live with that, and she swore to God about that. And honestly, now that Romeo's left, I really feel that he's going to make things bad for Darius on the show. I don't see things going well for Darius, honestly, after him leaving, so I really don't think this is going to go well. Ruby then sees this all go down, and she pretty much knows what's going on with him now. So London's put in the gurney, tells the paramedics to take her around the block because they need her back for the Elimination Ceremony, and thanks them. She tells the girls to get back in their gowns. Jay tells them to go to the green room for touch-ups, and Chet goes to Quinn, says there's nothing they can't do, working together side by side, reminding of how things used to be. We get this really great monologue from Chet, because we're reminded that while Chet can be really schemy and very manipulative and just really disgusting, he really loves Quinn. Deep down, he loves Quinn. He wants to be with Quinn, and he knows that. The problem is, they can never really be together, honestly, and even if they were to be together, they can't really be together, and it really does suck that they can't be together, you know, even though he wants them to be. And he says there's nothing they can't do working together side by side, reminding him of things used to be. He should have left Cynthia the day he met her. He would have saved everyone a lot of grief. She's the love of his life. He wants her to trust him. He has a baby now, and he's changed. And if they try this again, it would be a whole new universe, the one she deserves. She doesn't even seem to care. She doesn't care, because when this ambulance arrives, she says they told him to go around the corner, not the driveway. Wonders what the cops are about, and the cops go to Chet, tells him he's under arrest for kidnapping a baby. She's freaking out that he would actually do that to his son. done, and basically, Chet's arrested. Chet is arrested in the van. Now, is he going to come back? I'm sure he will at some point, but they really just show that the life that Chet wants with Quinn, he can never have. He's always going to be messing up something. He's always going to be a screw-up. He's always going to be messing something up, and that's just who Chet is. He fucks things up, and he can't really change that at all, and honestly, that until he changes that, then Quinn can't be with him as long as he's like that. So I really like the way that was done. Really sad for Chet, because honestly, I did kind of feel bad for the guy, even though he did do what he did. I did kind of feel bad for him, just because no one should have to really go through that. I mean, he really did want to try this again with Quinn. He didn't get to, and that's why it really just sucked for him. So definitely, I really did feel bad for Chet there in that situation. So on Everlasting, it's time for the Elimination Ceremony. Darius needs to cut 5 girls, and one of those ends up being London, who goes on a whole rampage, throws her microphone. Madison tells the cameraman to follow it. Yael then goes to Jeremy and says this must be the party truck. He says she found it, and she asks if he was going to give her a drink. Says she thinks that Rachel hates her. He says join the club. She asks why she hates him. She realizes of their past relationship. He says they're not going to talk about that, and she says it's pretty amazing how she gets everyone to do the things they do, and he says she doesn't know the half of it. She says she'd like to know all of it. He says that would require him getting to know her a lot better. She says that he should give her a tour. He says it's a pretty small truck and not much to say. She says she wasn't talking about the truck. Close the doors, and again, she's becoming very seductive. Says they go to have sex, and I really did enjoy that. Thought that was really well done, and I thought that was definitely something that I really enjoyed. Really good stuff there. You know, I like that Yael and Jeremy are bonding. I know a lot of people don't like Jeremy. I've always kind of liked Jeremy, but I know a lot of people don't. But I do like this relationship between him and Yael, because this, again, is Yael not doing what Rachel tells her to do, and it perfectly shows that these girls are a lot more, like I said, you know, they're a lot more aware of what's going on. They're not as dumb as they were last season, and they're not as easily manipulated either. And Yael's a perfect example of that. You know, she's not gonna let anyone tell her what to do. So Rachel watches back the footage. Quinn storms in. Quinn literally storms in, and this pretty much is the last straw for Quinn. Rachel asks if she wants a beer. Quinn says she's not her friend, congratulates her, and says she showed her she can make the show without her. Rachel says she knows that they're fighting about work stuff, and Quinn says there's nothing else, that's them, they work and not well. She says she's done with all the garbage people in her life, Randy, Chet, and now her, walks out, and it's all just happened way too much. You know, her father just died, Chet just tried to get back together with her, and now Rachel's manipulated her, and Madison goes to Quinn, says they want to know where their father's personal items, and tells them to put everything in the house, light a match, burn it to the ground, and she's just done. She doesn't care. She doesn't care that Rachel's done what she did. She's really pissed at her. Ruby then goes to Darius, says he's a hard man to find. He asks if she's alone. She says there's no cameras because she's not a wifey. Asks if she can sit down. Asks him what happened with Romeo. He says he's tired of people telling him what to do, so we let him go, and she says he's family, so we can't just let him go. She asks him what's going on with him and tells her that this is just her asking, and asks if he's okay, and he nods, and she says she hates what this place is doing to everybody, including her, making her care too much about what other people think like him. He says she's so strong, she's got a mouth in her. He says he's spent his entire life letting people make decisions for him, but not anymore. It's time to be his own man. It just feels good to do something, and I like that Darius, again, he's trying to be independent. He's not letting anyone do things for him, and I like this bonding he has with Ruby here, and basically talks about how, you know, it's great to take the chance, and that's the guy he wants to be. She tells him to be that guy. He kisses her. She asks him if he's sure this is what he wants, and he says this is exactly what that guy wants. They continue to make out, but they don't realize there have been cameras on them the entire time from Jay and Dan, and Coleman is about to leave. Rachel asks where he's going. She asks him if he wants a beer. He says he'd love this, and again, when Rachel asked Quinn, it was like if she was asking for a friend. They're not friends anymore. Coleman and Rachel, however, are developing something. She thanks him, asks him if they're doing this. They make out. It seems that they are going to go forward with the relationship. That is how the episode ends. Amazing episode overall. So much to talk about, though. Really just incredible stuff. But really, guys, this was a huge episode. There was so much great stuff going on here. I can understand someone said, oh, the episode didn't focus on the girls enough, but we got a lot of focus on them in episodes 2 and 3. Not as much focus on Darius as we did in this episode. And that's something I really enjoyed, is the focus we got on Darius. It really does show that he's a much more complex man than Adam. This is a guy that really all his life is people have told him to do things. He hasn't really gotten to make his own decisions. And, you know, especially when you're a celebrity, you don't really get to do that. You have security guards constantly on your watch, and, you know, Darius wants to take this chance to do things for himself. He doesn't want people to tell him what to do. He wants to make his own decisions, and that's something I really did enjoy about this episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that ends working out with Darius. I hope things work out for his sake. And him and Ruby, it seemed like he genuinely is starting to like Ruby. This, cameras weren't on them. This is when he was by himself. It seems he genuinely does like her, and honestly, I could see Ruby going really far. Again, this is kind of her way of doing what Jay told her to do, but it's also her way of, being with Darius, because we know that she does like Darius, and I think this episode confirms that she definitely likes Darius. Jay thought that last week. I think she definitely does like Darius after this episode. I think he also does have some sort of closeness with Tiffany. I like their bonding overall. I hope things go well there. But as far as Rachel and Quinn, these two are officially at war, definitely. I mean, they're definitely at war. It looks like next week Quinn's going to basically just put cameras anywhere and everywhere. She's going to basically break every rule she possibly could, and it's going to get crazy to see how that goes. I like how Coleman and Rachel are developing things. I like the way that that's going. I really do fear for, Darius. Now that he just got rid of Romeo, I'm worried that Romeo is going to try to start something, that he's going to try to start some sort of rumor, or he's going to try to ruin his career, because especially how Romeo was so protective of him, he knows what he wants. He knows he wants Darius to go to the hospital, and I think he'll do whatever he can to get Darius off the show. I could really see the show ending with Darius being forced to leave or something like that. I don't really know, but just because of him firing Romeo, I don't see things going well for Darius. I honestly don't see things going well there at all. We'll have to see how that goes. That's going to be really interesting. I don't really know what's going to happen there. Yael and Jeremy, I really am enjoying their relationship overall. I like the way that these two, Jeremy liked her, and now Yael seems to be liking him as well. Again, like I said, Yael's really hot, so I do agree with Jeremy, definitely, but there's that as well. But I do like these two. I like that Jeremy's genuinely getting a relationship, especially after what happened with, Lizzie and everything, and it just did not work out with her. I'm glad that these two seem to be having a genuine relationship, but how is this going to interfere with the show? Well, let's see what happens with that. That's going to be really interesting. This is very much what happened with Adam and Grace, with Grace, giving Adam a blowjob and everything, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens there between Yael and Jeremy, because if this continues, this could end up really bad for the show, and like I said, I like that a lot of these girls are starting to become a lot more confident. I like that they're starting to do, what their edit says. Like, Beth Ann starting to become a lot more self-centered and a lot more self-confident. I really am enjoying that. I think that's very well done. Overall, guys, just great stuff. Really love it. Also, Chet. Is Chet going to get out of jail? I mean, I don't see Chet staying in jail for the rest of the season. I think he's going to get out eventually. We'll have to see what happens with that, but just great stuff, guys. Absolutely love this episode. Really amazing stuff. Some great scenes overall, especially from Shiri Appleby and Constance Zimmer. The season really is about those two as a whole. Not the last season was, but this season really is about the relationship these two have, how they struck that relationship, and now how we're moving forward, Rachel and Coleman. I'm really enjoying that, but let me know what you guys saw this episode. If your thoughts on it, absolutely love this episode. Crazy stuff going on, and I will see you guys in the next week for Brain Dead, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.